Hello everybody out there in Facebook land. This is Jane here coming to you from the kitchen at Beals Lodge. So I thought today it's a bit windy and a bit blowy and rainy out there, so I thought I might share some cooking with you today to keep you entertained on this blowy afternoon. So it was St David's Day on Friday, March the 1st. The patron saint of Wales. One of the foods, oh thank you for the likes, one of the foods associated with Wales, oh hi Marie, thanks for watching, are Welsh cakes. And it never ceases to surprise me because we have Welsh cakes on a daily basis. It never ceases to surprise me when guests from, you know, only a few hours away come. And oh, Marie is saying another cooking video, yay. It's a bit of an experimental one, Marie. So it never ceases to amaze me when guests come that live in the UK and they are amazed by Welsh cakes. So the Welsh cakes that I tend to use in the B&B for the guests are Welsh cakes from the very lovely Tanner Castle Bakery, a few miles away from here in Narberth. They've got a fantastic recipe, and the Welsh cakes have no preservatives in them, but they taste marvellous even days after you've made them. My Welsh cakes are lovely coming straight off the hob, they are lovely, but for some reason they don't seem to be quite as lovely in 2 or 3 days time. If you warm them back up in the oven then they're great, but I just haven't quite got the knack for making them last a long time, but nothing better than one straight off the Arga. So I don't know how this is going to work because my kitchen's not really set up for demonstrating that well, so bear with me. I think maybe I need a few more cameras, but what I thought I'd do, as it was St David's Day, I thought I'd share with you my recipe for Welsh cakes. So today's recipe is a little different to maybe a standard recipe because I am gluten-free, so I'm using gluten-free flour, and I am trying to be sugar-free. So today I am making these Welsh cakes not with caster sugar, which is what is in the recipe, but with xylitol, which is from the birch tree. It is a low GI, no carb sugar substitute. So I thought I'd give that a go today. So I haven't made them with xylitol yet. Now xylitol you can swap 1 for 1 with sugar, but I do find, because I'm trying to come off sugar, my taste palette is not quite so sweet, so I've used a little bit less xylitol. And if you look on the World Wide Web, you will find 101 different recipes for Welsh cakes because they were traditional to the family and it's the family recipe that's been handed down. So please, no one shout at me if you make yours differently. The recipe I've got is quite a basic recipe. You can add mixed spice into them. I mean, for instance, James Martin was toodling around Pembrokeshire the other day on TV and he made some Welsh cakes and he put mixed spice in his. Nothing wrong with putting mixed spice in your Welsh cakes, but mine haven't got mixed spice in them. So how am I going to do this now, folks? I've got no idea. I'm going to move this around. I'm going to try and not get the sun in your eyes, and I'm going to end up cooking it, mixing it on the Arga, which is not a good place to mix it really, is it? Because it's going to get hot. Bear with me a sec. Not a kitchen designed for showing you how to do things. So I have my mixing bowl. I'm going to have to sort of like point and show. What if I move it more that away? I don't know. I could cancel. I could do with someone manning the camera. Oh, hi Em, nice to see you. I hear you're coming down. So I've got my mixing bowl here, and what I have got is 2 to 5 grams of, this is self-raising gluten-free flour, which really the recipes will tell you to sift. This is so fine because the majority of it is rice flour. So I'm just going to whack it in the bowl. And then I have got some butter, which I have cubed up. Now I would say salted butter, but I didn't have all salted butter because I had some unsalted that I wanted to use up. So I've got a portion of unsalted in here, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt in as well. Now I'm doing what you shouldn't do really, in that I've got it on the agar. So what you want to do is, and it's on the agar, and the top of the agar, what's Miriam saying? Arriving Thursday, cannot wait. Oh yes, lovely. So what you want to do is rub it in like you're doing shortcrust pastry. Now this is gluten-free, as I said, rice flour. If you've used gluten-free pastry that's got rice flour in it, you'll know it puffs up and it's like talcum powder coming up here at the moment. So I'm trying to rub this in. At the same time, the agar is warming the butter up, which is not ideal because you want to try and do it while it's still quite cool, because we're trying to get breadcrumb status here, like you do with a shortcrust pastry. So with anybody who maybe is thinking of starting to use gluten-free flour, I tend to mix my own up, and I quite happily give you my recipe. But today, just for speed, for being on the camera, I'm using a pre-mixed gluten-free. I find working with self-raising gluten-free better than plain gluten-free, and you can get great pre-mixed gluten-free flours from Dove's Farm if you're in the UK. If you're in America or Canada, I honestly don't know who is your good gluten-free, but America tends to be way ahead of us in the food department, so I would think you've got something splendid over there. But today I'm using a gluten-free flour from Aldi. They do perfectly good gluten-free flour, and it's about the third of the price of a Dove's Farm. Don't tell them I said that. So I am getting there with this. I'm trying to get it all rubbed in before the agar heats this butter up and melts it a bit too much. So while I'm doing that, let me talk to you about National Bed and Breakfast Week. National Bed and Breakfast Week is starting on Monday the 18th, and it's running for that week. And it's a celebration of bed and breakfasts and the good they do in the community. And so on Monday the 18th, oh, Marie is saying she uses gluten-free from Aldi. Have you got an Aldi over there, Marie? Wow, how brilliant. Marie's in America, by the way. So on Monday the 18th, I have got a breakfast buffet celebration going on. I have our Assembly Member for Wales, Mr. Paul Davis, coming, and I also have the Cabinet Member for Lifelong Learning, Mr. David Lloyd, coming, as well as some local dignitaries from the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, some councillors, some representatives of the school, and also then some of my suppliers and my producers. And the whole idea of the day is to actually highlight how a small bed and breakfast, because we are only a small bed and breakfast, how a small bed and breakfast contributes to the local economy, to the community, to the businesses, and how that has a ripple effect going much further than you would imagine. And I am only one of these small bed and breakfasts. We have about 1,000 in Pembrokeshire. So between us all, we are in the tourism industry is the largest employer in, oh, I'm just getting that out, I can feel a bit of rice, actual rice rather than rice flour. So I'm just getting that out. So we're the largest employer in the county, and I thought it was worth celebrating. So excuse you see in the back of my head all the time, but I'll show you what I've done now. So can you see? That's all sort of mixed up into sort of breadcrumby looking like things. And then into that, I've got my xylitol. And it's 85 grams of xylitol, and I'm just mixing that in. Oh, Miriam's saying I do loads for the community and for local businesses in Pembrokeshire. Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I think it's, everybody wins if we all work together. And then into that then, I've got an egg that's going in. I've got a free-range egg, which I'm just gonna, sorry, I'm leaning behind you to get a fork. I'm just gonna mix that up before I pop it in. And then, sultanas are in my recipe. A couple of handfuls of sultanas. If you don't like sultanas, you can put currants in, you can put any sort of dried fruit of your choice in, cranberries, whatever you like. I like quite a few sultanas, so there's quite a lot going in mine, but if you don't like that many, you don't need to put so many in. That's the beauty of making it yourself. So what I should have done was I should have got my bread mixer out, my little spatula, to save my hands getting all messy, because I've put both my hands in now. When you're making bread, you keep one hand clean, and I've put both my hands in here. Not ideal, but the sink is only behind me, so it won't take me a minute to wipe them off. So what I'm doing here now, I'll show you now. Now this is a bit wetter again because it's gluten-free flour. Excuse the mucky hands, but I'm pulling it together, look, into something like that. And if this was ordinary flour, you'd do a bit more kneading, but because this is gluten-free flour, there's nothing really to knead as such, so you just got to roll it into a ball. And now you're watching me cook as I do normally, which is with no forethought as to what I'm going to need next. And now I need my cutter, and I got to go in the drawer. Well, I'm not going in the drawer to get my cutter with my fingers like this. So, excuse the silence, but I've just rinsed my hands off so I can get my cutter out. And could you tell I had to move you then to open the drawer? So, the beauty of doing them yourself is you can choose what size Welsh cake you want. So, when I'm needing to watch what I'm having with my cup of tea, I use a very small one. If you go to a shop, you'll probably have Welsh cakes about that size. But I'm using this one. And you can choose whether to cut it with the crinkly end or the straight end. Now, because this is gluten-free flour, it tends to stick. So I'm going to put some baking paper down. Now if you were using ordinary flour, you just scat some flour on your worktop, and that would stop it from sticking. But gluten-free flour is not quite like that. So apologies, you can't see me now. So I'm going to try and do this as quickly as I can by shouting at you from the corner. So if you've put your egg in and it's still quite dry, your mixture, then just put a little bit of milk in, just to loosen it up a little bit. But whether it's gluten-free or normal flour, you're looking for a dough ball to work with. And then what you would do is you would roll it out. If you're using ordinary flour, you would roll it out, which you could do quite easily when it's normal flour, and cut them out. Because this is gluten-free and it sticks, I've got a piece of parchment on the bottom, and I'm going to put a piece of parchment on the top, and I'm going to roll it through the parchment. Otherwise I'm going to have it stuck everywhere. So for speed, because I don't want you here all afternoon, it's lovely having you, by the way, but I don't want you here all afternoon. What exactly are sultanas? Well, they're sultanas, they're not raisins, because we have currant, sultanas and raisins. What is a sultana? Do you know, I don't know what a sultana comes from. We have currant, sultanas and raisins. I shall investigate that, Marie. I don't know. So for speed for today, I'm just going to, are these similar to scones? Scones are a bit more bready. These are a bit more cakey, I would say, Marie. Scones in this country. I think it's the same recipe for scones in yours. So I'm just using a little bit. And I'm squashing it down to about ½ centimetre thick. And this is what I'm going to use to cook it on. So I'm going to use the cooler plate on the Aga to cook it on in a sheet of silicone. Traditionally they would be cooked on a black griddle or a stone, but if you haven't got those, then you can cook them in a frying pan. So what I would say is heat the frying pan up, put a little bit of oil on, and then rub the oil around with a piece of kitchen cloth, just so that you get oil right on the right around the frying pan, and then you can do this equally as well. So I'm just cutting these out now. Spatula. I'm just cutting a few out for you. You can make this mixture, and if you don't want to cook it all, you can actually put it in the, halve it, use what you want, halve it, and then put it in the freezer to use another day. If you wanted to do it like that, I would section it so that maybe you cut it into 4 or something, so that you can just take out the amount you want. So as I said, working with gluten-free flour is definitely slightly different to working with ordinary flour. But the good thing is that I can still enjoy it. So I just put these on the griddle now. And you don't want to have them too thick, because it's only the heat on each side that's going to cook them. So if you have them too thick, you'll end up with raw dough in the middle. And no one likes that. If you do get, if that does happen to you, though, what you can do is you can cut them in half, and then when they've cooled, cut them in half, and then just put the uncooked side down back into your frying pan. In Wales, traditionally these are then served smeared with butter, and there's nothing nicer than that. So I'm just checking these over, they don't take long. I cooked pancakes on this morning. Normally with the Aga, with the weather, it's very is very unpredictable depending on what the weather is. And we've had wind, and normally that means the agar's cold. So I altered the settings on the agar to make sure that it wasn't too cold for me to cook this morning. And I needed to cook crempog, which is Welsh for pancake. So I needed to cook those this morning, and I underestimated how hot it was after me making the alterations. So my first batch of crempog this morning were burnt. Luckily I salvaged them before they started smelling the whole kitchen. And I made a fresh batch then before the guest was actually ready for them. So it caught me by surprise this morning. So I'm just flipping these now, these few that I've made here now. And I've made a large one just from the bit that was left over is bigger than it would be normally. Because again, with them being gluten-free, they are more fragile. So the big one is collapsing now. But that's fine because it'll have a little taster for me now. Marie is saying, I never thought to use my silicone mats on the griddle. Oh, marvellous, Marie. I cook my eggs on them, cook bacon on them, cook my pancakes on them. Marvellous. As long as you've got a silicone that will cope with the heat, then you're fine. So we're pretty much there, folks. So ideally what you would be doing is you would be taking these off now and popping them on a wire rack to cool, and you would be carrying on making as many as you would like. That recipe that I've done today makes quite a few small ones, about 48 I would say, quite a few small ones, which really for me is too many, so I would cut it in half, but you can't really cut the actual recipe in half because that's one egg. So unless you're very clever at dividing an egg in half. So what I would say is make the dough, cut it in half and put half in the freezer. So let me just take my silicone off my grill here. Pop the lid down, and here's the couple that I've made here now. So you can see how quick they are. So excuse me, I need to make a cup of tea now. So, very, very nice. Don't talk with your mouth full. Excuse me. Very nice. That's still a bit too sweet for me, with that amount of xylitol in. But the good thing is that's not putting my blood sugar up now. The sugar isn't. I dare say the rice flour is, but every little helps, doesn't it? And because rice flour is quite dry in your mouth compared to ordinary flour, that'd be perfect with a cup of tea. Because I'm not having a cup of tea as I'm eating this now, I think a bit of butter on there now would counteract the dryness of the rice flour. But if you were sitting down with a cup of tea with me now, I'd be more than happy to share one of these with you. So have a go at making your own Welsh cakes. Celebrate St. David's Day with us, and also celebrate Bed and Breakfast Week, which is March the 18th to the 24th. And join me, even if you can only do it remotely, on March the 18th when we have our celebration breakfast here for our Assembly member Paul Davis and invited dignitaries to celebrate all that's good about a bed and breakfast. And I'll put my blog about National B&B Week in the comments under the live once it goes live, and you can have a little read and enjoy the celebration with me. So have a good afternoon, folks. Happy Sunday. Bye.